Welcome to Blazing Tales with Edimos.
In the small riverside village of Idomu, people rose with the sun and worked with their hands. Children chased goats through the dust, women pounded yam in wide wooden mortars, and men cast their nets into the slow, singing river. Among these men was Tunde, a quiet fisherman with strong arms and a soft heart. He was not known for many words, but when he did speak, his voice was gentle like flowing water. His boat was his closest companion, and the fish he caught each day were enough to feed his widowed mother and himself. Yet, there was one thing missing in Tunde's life, someone to share his heart with. One evening, as the sun melted into the orange horizon, he noticed a young woman walking along the riverbank. She carried books in her hand, and her steps were graceful like the rhythm of a song. Her name was Amara, the new schoolteacher who had come from the nearby town. She had come to teach the village children how to read and write. Tunde watched her laugh with the children, her eyes shining with kindness. From that day, he found himself rowing his boat closer to the school each evening, just to hear her voice drifting on the wind. Soon their paths crossed. He would carry baskets of fish past her classroom, and she would greet him with a smile. She loved listening to his stories about the river, while he admired the way she explained words and numbers to the children. The villagers began to whisper, "Tunde and Amara, maybe they are meant to be." Weeks passed and friendship blossomed into love. Though Tunde was poor and spoke little, he loved Amara with a pure heart. Amara, though learned and from the city, found comfort in his honesty and strength. She said once while sitting by the fire under the moonlight, "Tunde, the river runs deep, but your heart runs deeper." He wanted to marry her, and she said yes. The whole village of Idomu prepared for the wedding with excitement. Drummers tuned their drums, women sewed bright cloth, and children practiced songs. But no one knew that a storm was already forming far away. For every moon that shone over Idomu, there was another moon waiting to rise. And on the day of the wedding, both moons would clash. The wedding day arrived with the smell of roasted meat and fried plantain filling the air. The sun shone brightly and the river carried its calm music as if blessing the couple. Amara wore a beautiful wrapper of deep blue with beads around her neck and wrists. Her friends braided her hair into neat lines, placing cowries that glittered like stars. She looked like a queen, though her eyes were soft and tender. Tunde stood tall in his white agbada, the wide sleeves dancing in the breeze. Though he was not used to being the center of attention, he smiled shyly as people clapped and sang his name. "Today is the day," the villagers cheered. Drums echoed, women ululated, children scattered petals of bright bougainvillea flowers on the ground. The chief of the village, Baba Okoro, stepped forward with a staff carved from Irako wood. "We gather," he declared, "to witness love that is true. May this union bring peace, children, and joy." Tunde reached for Amara's hand, their eyes locked, filled with dreams of tomorrow. The drummers struck harder, and the women began a marriage song. Then, suddenly, the singing stopped. A shadow fell across the gathering. From the dusty road came a stranger. He was tall, his skin fairer than most, and his clothes were not of the village, but of the bustling city. A long coat brushed his knees, and his shoes shone like polished stone. People turned to look, whispering, who was this man who walked with such pride? He stopped at the edge of the crowd and raised his voice. "This wedding cannot go on." Gasps spread like fire in dry grass. The stranger stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Amara. Her face had turned pale. The chief demanded, "Who are you, and what do you mean?" The man answered with calm boldness, "My name is Chike. In the city, before she came here, Amara and I were married. She is mine, and no other man can claim her." The drums fell silent. All eyes turned to Amara. She trembled, unable to speak. Tunde's hand slipped from hers. The air was heavy with questions, suspicion, and fear. 2 moons now hung over Idomu, one of love and one of betrayal, and no one knew which would light the path ahead. The crowd pressed closer, murmuring. Some shouted, "Lies!" Others whispered, "Could it be true?" Amara closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. The village chief's voice was sharp. "Amara, speak the truth. Is this man your husband?" Her lips shook and she whispered, "Once, long ago, in the city." The villagers gasped again. Tunde's heart burned. His whole world tilted like a canoe struck by waves. She tried to explain. "I was young. My family pushed me. Chike and we signed papers, but my heart was never with him. He left. He disappeared, and I thought it was finished. I never saw him again." Chike's laughter cut through her words. "Never finished. A marriage is a bond. She is mine." Tunde stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "If she is truly yours, why did you abandon her? Why did you return only now, on this day?" Chike's eyes narrowed. "Because she belongs with me in the city, not with a poor fisherman by the river." The insult stung. The villagers shouted angrily, defending Tunde, but Amara stood torn between past and present. The chief raised his hand for silence. "This matter cannot be settled with noise. Tonight we will gather in the square. You, Chike, will prove your claim, and Amara, you will speak your heart. Until then, the wedding must wait." The drummers were packed away. The feast was left untouched. The joy of the morning had turned to dust. That night, under the wide sky, 2 moons rose, one full, one faint. The villagers whispered, "It is a sign. The gods are watching." Tunde sat by the river, his net forgotten, his heart heavy. Amara came to him, her voice breaking. "Tunde, I love you. Believe me." But in the shadows, Chike watched, his eyes hard, his smile thin. The storm had only begun. When the village square filled with torches and voices, the air was sharp with tension. The people of Idomu gathered to witness the trial of truth. Baba Okoro, the chief, stood at the center, with elders seated beside him. "Let truth rise and lies fall," he declared. Chike spoke first, waving a folded paper. "Here, the proof, a marriage certificate signed in the city." He held it high for all to see. Gasps echoed. The paper looked real, with stamps and seals. Amara's voice cracked as she cried out, "Yes, it is true, but I never lived as his wife. He left me without care, without love. What is marriage without heart? He only wants to control me." Chike smirked. "She speaks because she is blinded by this fisherman." Tunde's blood boiled, but he held back, his fists clenched. "I may be poor, but my love is pure. She has found peace with me. Is a marriage not more than ink and paper?" The chief nodded slowly. "Love is spirit, but law is binding." The elders murmured, the people argued. Some sided with Tunde, others feared the power of the city man. Suddenly, an old woman stepped forward. It was Mama Kemi, the village seer. Her eyes were cloudy with age, yet her voice was strong. She said, "2 moons cannot shine in one sky. One must fall. Let the spirits decide." She dropped cowrie shells onto a mat, and the shells clattered like thunder. She studied them, then raised her wrinkled hand. "This matter is not yet clear. Danger waits in the shadows. Chike hides more than he has shown." The crowd gasped. Chike's smile faltered. The chief declared, "Until we know the full truth, no wedding shall hold." The villagers left with heavy hearts. Tunde stared at the two moons above, torn between hope and despair. That night, Amara could not sleep. Memories of the city haunted her. The hurried wedding, the loneliness, the long nights waiting for Chike to return. She remembered whispers of his dealings with dangerous men, money that flowed like water, and his sudden disappearance. She had buried it all when she came to Idomu, hoping for peace. But now the past had followed her. Tunde sat outside her hut, silent. He wanted to hold her, but pain closed his chest. Meanwhile, in the dark edge of the village, Chike met with two strangers from the city. They wore dark coats and spoke in low tones. "You found her," one said. "Yes," Chike replied. "She will return with me, whether she wants to or not." The other man pressed something into Chike's hand, a small black pouch. "Do not fail. Too much is at stake." The next morning, the river carried whispers. Fishermen spoke of strange footsteps at night. Women said they saw shadows moving near the school. The children whispered that the two moons meant a curse was coming. And in Amara's heart, fear grew. She loved Tunde, but she knew Chika's return was no accident. Something larger, darker had come with him. The village of Idomu stood on the edge of a storm, and the two moons still shone.